Hello and welcome to another view from the cab. I've not done a video like this for a little while, but this is the first one I've done, well, actually for quite a long time. So what I want to talk about is the transport industry, specifically buses, because I'm a bus driver. Everybody knows that, it's not a secret. And bus driving is my area of expertise, such as it is. I've driven freight and driven trucks and things for other parts of the transport industry. And it's basically, I just want to touch upon the short-termism, the short-term thinking that is prevalent, not just in the transport industry, but everywhere, I suppose. But we're going to focus on transport, specifically buses. And these larger bus companies, I work for a really good bus company at the moment, and they're really good. They treat their staff properly, they treat them as people, they treat them with courtesy, and they treat them with respect. And that is just, it's missing, it's lacking when you go to these large bus companies. The main big ones, the big ones, there's a big sort of two or three, the main two or three, the big three, and they just seem, I'm going to tar them all with the same dirty brush. They're all getting the same dirty brush treatment here. They just don't seem to really care about their staff. They have good bus drivers. I mean, obviously there's good bus drivers and there's bad bus drivers, but they just seem to do their absolute best to just get rid of even the good bus drivers. There's always a way, there's always an excuse. Obviously drivers can't be running early, they've got to stick to a timetable, but there are times when it's unavoidable. Oh well, you're 2 minutes early, so we're gonna have to sack you. But then if you're 2 minutes late finishing and you try and put in an overtime sheet for that 2 minutes, they say, what you're claiming for 2 minutes for? It costs so much money to process. Well, if I can be sacked for running 2 minutes early, I want my 2 minutes if I finish 2 minutes late. But they don't seem to think of it like that. They just, I don't know, there's always an excuse to sack a driver. There's always a way, and there's always a manager, an ops manager, who's quite willing. You see, they're there mainly just to discipline the drivers, to justify their own employment. That is the top and the bottom of it. So they can say to their superiors, they can say, look, you need to keep me employed because I've disciplined all these drivers in the last month. Look at it, I'm keeping order. I'm enforcing discipline. So you need to keep paying me. I'm important. But a lot of the time this happened to me once, right? An example. I'd had some time off work for one thing, or I can't really remember. I think illness. We'll say it was illness. So I'd been ill and I'd been off work. And the company didn't like that, right? So what they did was, when I come back to work, they then took me off the road, right? They covered part of my duty, paid somebody overtime to go out and do a couple of my trips, right? To take me into the office to moan at me about missing work and costing them overtime. But they've just done that themselves by taking me off of my duty and paying someone overtime so they could moan at me about causing overtime. And obviously I know they've got a business to run, I know they've got to make money, but it just seems sometimes that it's these I don't know, they just don't seem, you don't have managers anymore. They don't manage like they did in the old days. I mean, I'm talking like I'm an old man now, but in the old days you'd have inspectors, bus inspectors, and they'd sort of take you to the side and they'd sort of give you the bollocking you obviously needed. you know, and then that'd be that. They'd get their point across, you'd accept your bollocking. It happened to me a couple of times. There's no need to take you off the road. They just sort of collared you, you know, when they saw you, and they'd say, you know, doing this or that, or talking this way, or what, just sort yourself out. You didn't have to go into the office, you didn't have to be taken off the road. It's just a friendly word in your shell, like, and you know, they'd get their point across, and that's how they did it in the old days. But now you have to have the whole the whole go to the office thing, and you've got to come off your duty, and you've got to be messed around, and you know, and it's just any excuse so that they can bin you off. And it's like with vehicles, signing off vehicles. I know that they've got to satisfy the Ministry of Transport, that they're maintaining the records for maintenance properly, and I can see that. But then somebody was telling me they total up all the times if you forget to sign a vehicle off. They then go through and they look at it and say, oh, well, he didn't sign off this particular vehicle, better send him a ticket through to warn him. But these warnings get put in your file, and eventually they can, if you have too many, they'll sack you for it. You know, you're talking about a bloke's livelihood. I know they've got a license to protect, an operating license to protect, but I mean, be realistic. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I mean, I had one once, and I'd been messed around. I had to go back to the depot, and I had to get another vehicle. I had to drop off a defect vehicle, I had to get another vehicle, and then get back to town to pick up my next journey. And I got back and I signed off the vehicle on the defect sheet, and I, you know, defect C sheet, and I put the sheet in, and I got the other bus, did the walk around check, filled in a new sheet because I didn't know who'd had it before, so I checked it myself, did the walk around, signed the sheet, it was all good, off we go. But because it had already, that particular vehicle that I took had already been signed off, so on the printed out sheet, the sign off sheet, we'll call it 6954, right? 6954, that's been signed off. So what I did was, I then turned over the page, looked for it, because I used to print in blank slots for such an occasion, right? So I wrote in 6954, put my name in, no defects, bosh, done, right? So anyway, so a few days later, I get a ticket through saying you didn't sign off, we'll call it 5104. You didn't sign off 5104. I thought, well, I didn't have 5104 because 5104 was, say, a double decker, and you know, I had a single decker, right? So somebody said, I said, no, that's not right, because what I started to do was write down every vehicle I signed off in my diary. So I said, no, I had 6954. Somebody said, do you want to go up and talk to them about it, because that goes in your file, and too many of them, and it causes you problems. So I said, oh, all right then. So I went up to the ops manager, and I said, oh, I've got this thing through. And he said, yeah, we didn't sign it off, did you? 5104, you didn't sign it off. I said, well, I didn't have 5104. I had 6954. And he said, well, we'll have a look then. So he got the the sign off sheet, and he said, you know, yeah, you didn't sign it off. And I said, well, I didn't have that. And I said, turn the page. So he turned over to the next one. It's like big A3 sheets or A2 sheets. And I said, have a look. And there it was. I'd written it in big numbers and letters. I said, look, 6954. I said, I signed it off. Because what he'd said was, oh, if you're wrong, I'll apologise. So I said, look at that. And he went, oh, well, I'm sorry. I said, yeah. I said, you are sorry. I said, so that goes away now, does it? He said, yeah, that goes away. So, you know, but these are the petty, small-minded things that can be avoided if these ops managers, in inverted commas, were to check their facts properly and actually look at things that are going on. And what it turned out to be was the bus I'd taken had gone back in the first place to have its ticket machine changed. But when they took the ticket machine out of 5104, they hadn't told the ticket machine it was now on a new bus. So as far as the ticket machine was concerned, it was still on 5104, although in actual fairness, in reality, I was driving 6954. But they don't check the facts. They don't look at these things. If it was done properly, they'd have looked and said, oh yeah, we didn't change the numbers. Oh right, okay, yeah. Oh, on closer inspection, look at that, he's looked. He's signed it off. Let's not bother with the... But no, it's an excuse for them to justify their employment and send me one of these ridiculous tickets, so eventually they can have me in the office and look at the possibility of giving me the sack, costing me my livelihood. And they just don't care. They've got no compunction at all. I mean, they see, the thing is, what they do is, if they've got pay scales, we call them years 1, 2 and 3. So if you're completely new to the industry, you'll start off on year 1 for a year, say. You do your training with the company, and then you'll start off on year 1, then you'll go on to year 2, and then year 3, right? But if you come back to the industry with your license already, you'll go on to year 2 for a few months. So what they do, if you've got a driver that's on year 3 pay, which is the higher rate, and you've got the most holiday allowance, they're looking for an excuse to bin you off, because you cost them more money and you've got more holiday. So if they can bin you off, you know, if they can sack a driver, no matter how many years experience he might have, if they can sack that driver and get in somebody new, even if he only stays for a year or two on lower pay, then they've had a result, because they've only got to give you, say, I don't know, whatever the allowance is now, say 23 days a year, or 25 days a year sounds more realistic. But you might have a driver that's been there for years and years and he's on 30 plus days. So if they can do that, obviously it makes economic sense, but it doesn't make moral sense. It's immoral. That, and why would you want to lose a member of staff? I mean, I knew a bloke, and he had, we'll say 36 years experience at the same bus garage, 36 years, and he decided one day he'd had enough, and he handed in his notice. Now, rather than just say, hang on a minute, this bloke that's been here for nearly 4 decades has suddenly chucked his notice in, we'd better work out why. They just took his notice and let him walk completely out of the industry. And that is just so short-sighted. It's just wrong. You know, nearly 4 decades of experience, and it's just, yeah, goodbye, see it, because he would have had 30 plus days holiday and he would have been an expensive driver. But rather than retain that experience, they just let him walk out of the whole industry. And that to me is just ridiculous. You know, if I've paid a bloke for 36 years, you know, I've paid for that experience. I've bought that experience. You know, I want to utilise that experience. I want to make money from that experience. Look after him properly, instead of giving any excuse to sack him. Let's use that experience. Let's keep it. It's our experience that we've paid for. But they don't see it like that. It's just, well, that's another driver. That's another expensive driver gone. You know, that's good. We can save a few quid for the next few months, so that's a win. You know, and it just doesn't make any sense. And it probably isn't just buses either. It's probably in the truck industry as well. Because if you look every Christmas, these parcel firms are always crying out for multi-drop drivers, because they treat their drivers like utter rubbish. You know, they treat their drivers like crap, basically. And then they wonder why they leave, why they jack it in, you know, and because you don't look after them. You don't respect them. You don't treat them like proper people. Well, you don't treat them like people at all. They're just any excuse. It's short-termism, and it's just all wrong. It's completely thanks mate, I'm talking here. And it's all just wrong. It's short-termism, but just so some ops manager somewhere can justify his own employment, you know, to keep himself in a job. That's all it is. It's just blatant short-termism, and it's all wrong. And the sooner these big companies start to realise they need to respect their staff, they need to look after the people that they've got, the experienced staff, sometimes with decades and decades of experience, you know, the better off transport will be. But they just don't seem to want to, because all it ever comes down to, and this is everything in this country now, is the bottom line. That is it. They don't care about people. They want people to do the job, but people have families, people have problems, people make mistakes, things happen with people. All the time you've got people, you've got, you know, people problems. It's just the way it is. It's just a fact of life. You know, people make mistakes, people do stupid things, make poor decisions, and you just have to try and work around it. Yes, it might inconvenience you if somebody's had a crash or somebody's had an accident or a mishap. It may inconvenience you, but you have to realise that he hasn't crashed his truck or bus on purpose. That's not really what he wanted. It's just one of those things that happens. And if you've got a large fleet of vehicles out on the road, the chances of accidents and mishaps, scrapes, bumps, prangs, knocks and breakdowns are just the way it is. It's just a fact of life. But there you go. What do I know? I'm just a bus driver.